Welcome, mystery enthusiasts. Today, I'll be sharing with you 4 incredible stories that unfolded in one of our most familiar places, Walmart. Remember, true thrills often hide among the towering shelves and concealed corners of our everyday lives. We're diving into the world of the unknown, where routine shopping can turn lives upside down, and the last tale will leave your heart pounding with suspense. Are you ready for this thrilling journey into the realm of the unseen? Let's get started. Story 1. Picturesque, a bustling Walmart on a quiet night. I heard this unsettling story from a friend who experienced something truly eerie. There it was, late, and the store was relatively empty, except for a few customers scattered throughout the aisles. My friend, let's call her Jess, was browsing the electronics section, checking out the latest gadgets. Suddenly, she got this overwhelming feeling of being watched. You know, that skin-crawling sensation that makes you glance over your shoulder, expecting to see someone staring at you. Well, there was no one there. Shaking off the unease, Jess continued shopping, but the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing minute. That's when she noticed something odd, a tall figure standing at the end of the aisle, partially obscured by the shadows. Jess couldn't make out any features. It was like a silhouette lingering in the darkness. Trying to rationalize it, she assumed it was just another shopper or perhaps an employee restocking shelves. But the figure didn't move, didn't make a sound, just stood there, almost unnaturally still. As Jess made her way to the next aisle, the feeling of being watched intensified, like invisible eyes following her every move. She quickly glanced back, and to her horror, the figure had moved closer, now standing at the edge of the aisle she had just left. Heart pounding, Jess picked up her pace, darting down different aisles. But each time she looked back, the figure was there, seemingly drawing closer without making a sound. Panic began to set in as she realized that no matter where she went, this mysterious presence was always behind her, lurking in the shadows. Finally, Jess reached the checkout area. Gasping for breath, she spun around one last time, expecting to see the figure right behind her, but there was nothing, just an empty aisle. She left the store in a hurry, shaken to the core by the inexplicable encounter. To this day, she swears she was followed by something unseen and ominous that night at Walmart, a silent watcher that seemed to materialize out of the shadows, watching her every move. Story 2. One ordinary night, let's call my friend Sarah, strolled into Walmart for a late-night shopping spree. The store was dimly lit, a few shoppers wandered the aisles, and everything seemed pretty routine until she reached the entrance. Now, Walmart is known for its friendly greeters, right? But on this particular night, as Sarah walked in, something felt off. There was no cheery welcome to Walmart or a smile from the usual greeter. Instead, there stood a figure cloaked in a long coat with a hood pulled low, obscuring their face. Sarah thought it was odd, but she brushed it off, assuming the greeter was just having a rough night or maybe new on the job. She went about her shopping, trying to ignore the prickling feeling that someone was watching her every move. As she wandered through the aisles, grabbing items off the shelves, she kept catching glimpses of that figure, always in the distance, always watching. It was like the greeter was silently following her through the store, their face hidden beneath that hood. Unease crept over Sarah, and she decided to make her way to the checkout. But as she approached the registers, there it was again, the figure standing near the exit, still as a statue, hiding their features. Feeling unnerved, Sarah quickly paid for her items and bolted for the exit. But as she passed by the figure, she realized something bone-chilling. The coat was empty. There was no person under that hood, just a shapeless void. She glanced back one last time, and the figure was gone, vanished into thin air. Sarah left Walmart that night feeling shaken, swearing she encountered some phantom greeter that didn't seem quite human, a chilling experience that made her think twice about late-night shopping trips at Walmart. Story 3. This world is truly an unsafe place. A while back, when my youngest son was 6 years old, we were both out shopping at Walmart. It was his birthday coming up, and I told him that he could pick out a toy in the toy aisle that was under $30. We were browsing the aisles carefully. My son wanted to see every single toy to make sure he got the best and exact one that he wanted. He ended up finding some big Lego Batman set and started begging if this was the one that he could have. I asked him what the price was on it. He looked on the shelf and on the box, but he said it didn't have a price. Just at that moment, there was a Walmart associate standing pretty close to where we were. I saw that his name tag read Greg. heard our price conversation and offered to check it for us on his device. When I told my son to go ahead and have the man scan it, my son walked the 5 feet it took to give it to Greg and handed the Lego box to him. Also at that moment, I was getting a phone call and I reached into my purse and saw that it was my husband calling. I turned my head briefly from my son and Greg to answer the phone. I now realize this is where I really messed up. After my brief phone call ended about my husband needing extra socks, and I turned back around only to see that my son and Greg were no longer in the toy aisle with me. I mean, like at all. The only thing I saw was the Batman Lego set on the ground that my son wanted to get, and this immediately raised red flags in my heart. I started sprinting up and down the aisles, calling my son's name out. I know I looked like a crazy woman, but when your child is missing, none of that matters. Every second counts, and I could not find my son or that great guy anywhere. When it comes to a missing child, every second counts. I ran up to the front and started telling the Walmart associates to lock down the exits because I couldn't find my son. They asked where I saw him last, and I told them a toy aisle with the associate Greg. They gave me a puzzled look and said that there was no associate by the name of Greg who works here. That was literally horror to my ears. In my haste, a man had come up to me, saw how distraught I was, and asked if he could help in any way. I don't know what it was, and I truly believe it was mother's intuition, but I just knew right then and there that I needed to go outside and check the parking lot. Me, a couple of Walmart associates, and the man who offered to help all ran out into the parking lot. To my absolute horror, at the very back end of the parking lot, I saw my son being put into a car, flailing his arms around and screaming for help. The man who was standing next to me didn't even hesitate. He full-on sprinted over to my son, and I was following close behind. Greg had just shut the back car door and was trying to get into the front and start the car when the man that I was with body slammed the out of him. He literally grabbed him by the throat and then used his other free hand to start smashing his face in. I grabbed my son out of the back seat while this guy beat the ever-living out of Greg. Thankfully, the police were very close by, and they were on the scene within minutes. It turns out this guy Greg didn't work for Walmart. He bought a fake vest on Amazon and was wearing it to pretend to blend in like an associate. The man who helped stop the abduction. His name was Richard. He was literally my hero that day. Since then, my husband and I have become good friends with Richard because of how greatly he helped us. But, guys, there are people out there who do this more than you think, and I do fault myself for not watching my kid like a hawk. You need to be on alert at all times, especially if you have young children. I cannot even imagine where or what condition my son would be if we didn't stop Greg that day. And that wasn't even his real name. He's a total waste of human space and is now rotting in jail for the next 30 years. Please be alert and be safe, everyone. And now, especially for all those who watched the video up to this point, I will share another gripping story. This is one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me, and of course, it happened at a Walmart. I was shopping there last year, around mid-June. I was single at the time and just getting basic things for my apartment, like paper towels, soap, and water. I wasn't in a self-checkout lane. I was at the part where it asked for your credit card. I was literally about to put it in and pay when out of nowhere, this guy comes up to me. He starts insisting that he pays for my order, and I told him thank you, but that's fine, I can do it myself. However, he was very persistent. I mean, he literally knocked my hand away from the card reader and put his in it. Honestly, I was like, whatever, if he really wanted to pay for my order that badly, then have at it. But it doesn't end there. After my order was paid, he starts following me to my car, insisting that he could help me load my car up. Now I was getting really weirded out by this guy because he didn't take no for an answer, but me being a pushover and just horrible at standing up for myself, I allowed him to follow me to my car and help me load it up. When the last bag was in my car, I thanked the man and told him to have a great day. He put his hand on my door, preventing me from opening it up, and said, "Can I get your number?" When he said this, I knew there was an ulterior motive to this guy, and it pissed me the hell off. But I politely said no and tried to open my door. He pressed down even harder, and his face completely changed. He went from friendly to absolute rage. He looked at me and said, "Oh, you'll take my money, but I can't have your number." Starting to get really uncomfortable. This guy was pretty strong, and if it came down to violence, he would quite literally be able to harm me. He started waving his hands around, saying people like me are the worst, and that women like me don't deserve a man like him. But as he was waving his arms around, his shirt lifted up, and I could see a gun tucked into his pants. This wasn't by accident either. I knew that he wanted me to see it. By the grace of God, I saw two cops standing by the front Walmart entrance, watching me in the sky. Even from a distance, I knew they could sense my distress. They walked over to us, which frightened the dude. The cops asked if everything was okay, and I said no, this man's harassing me and won't leave me alone. I literally thought at that moment he was going to pull his gun out and harm me, but before any of that could happen, the one officer grabbed him by the hand and said to follow him over here. The guy was cursing up a storm, and they ended up restraining him. Get this, it turns out this guy had warrants out for his arrest, specifically for Grand Theft Auto. He was thrown into the back of a cop car in handcuffs. That dude was honestly a loose cannon. The fact that he wouldn't take no for an answer and progressively got more violent with me. I'm glad someone like him is now off the streets. But yeah, that was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me at a Walmart. And there you have it, fellow adventurers. 4 tales from the aisles of Walmart that remind us the ordinary can quickly transform into the extraordinary. If you enjoyed these spine-tingling narratives, don't forget to hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe for more riveting stories. As we conclude our journey through the unexpected, always remember, life's most astonishing moments can be found in the most unassuming places. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep exploring the mysteries that surround us. Thanks for joining us on this thrilling expedition.